Hey folks, it's that time of year. Your local government is jingling their bells for your cash. If you took up their invitation to go to your local city truth and taxation hearing, or perhaps you were one of the 250 people that attended the Ramsey County truth and taxation hearing, or maybe you went to your school district hearing, you know that there's one thing for sure. The government is looking for more of your money. They are not having an economic recession or a depression. Now your neighborhood is having an economic depression in terms of housing. I'm sure you've noticed empty homes on your block. I'm sure you've known people that have lost their jobs and had to sell their homes if they could, and probably at a loss, or people that you know that are paying on a mortgage where the home is worth more on paper than it is in reality, where you're underwater. I mean, the economic environment is difficult for homeowners. Rental property is in the ascent because there's more demand, because obviously when people leave their homes, they have to live somewhere, and they're making a forced decision to rent. So we see rental property actually going up in value. It's the only category of property that really is showing any kind of increase, and a modest one at that. What we want to talk about today, folks, is a particular hearing that I attended in St. Paul. The St. Paul City Council had their Truth and Tax hearing on December 7th, and they had a relatively small number of people that actually testified, but the quality of the testimony was pretty impressive. I think there was about 15, 16 people that actually stood up, signed up, and actually gave somewhat lengthy testimony in several cases. We're going to lead off with a clip of my testimony after listening to the people. I think there were about 14 people ahead of me when I testified. And then we're going to listen to some of the testimony that those individuals gave. And I think you'll be impressed at the ideas, at the concern, at the real empathy that these people have for you at home who weren't at the hearing, because they're telling their story, and they know that there's only one opportunity a year to really make a pitch at your elected officials. So let's go ahead and play that first clip, and then we'll actually hear from some of the rest of the residents in St. Paul that talked to their city council members about their taxes.
You were asking for, and I think even one of the city council members was missing, and we had hardly any testimony. It's great to live in a city where the voice of the people is giving you the answers to the dilemma that the people have. The question is, will you listen? The people have suggested investment in business. Building a business base in this city is critical to adding to a tax base so that it's not all on homeowners. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. Spending, though, is really where it's at. The city wouldn't need the additional cash, the $6.5 million that you're seeking, if you get a handle on the spending. And you're the city council. Is the mayor here? Is he hiding somewhere? This is the second year in a row now that I've come to these where the mayor hasn't been present. In the past, when we had the joint property tax hearings with the school board and the county commissioners and you folks, the mayor came. I don't know why the mayor thinks he shouldn't be here listening to the people about his budget. This is his recommendation to you, as I understand it. We live in a strong mayor city. It seems that the mayor is derelict in not being here tonight. On the presentation by your budget officer, Mr. Cordes, he ignores a fact. A fact that there was, up until just last week, if you believe the story, a $5 billion deficit at the state. Is there really any logical expectation on the part of your financial staff that there should be more money coming from the Capitol? I don't think so. And we all know that fiscal analysis is somewhat in doubt and makes a lot of crazy assumptions about any kind of change in the fiscal condition there. And if you go to the House Research section, the last 3 years, the city has gotten the same exact amount of LGA money, notwithstanding the comments about the welfare shot. But $50 million, it's been level. There have been no cuts. All this graphic here about reductions in somebody's appraisal about what you may have gotten had the world not changed. We all know that we've had a jobs and housing depression, not only here in St. Paul, but in Minnesota in general and certainly nationally. Why would we think that there's any money coming from the capital? We have to learn to live within the people's means. You know, it used to be said government has to live within its means. Well, to the extent that you believe that the people and the government are the same, that makes it pretty simple. However, obviously you heard tonight there's some people here that think perhaps that's not being reflected in this budget. The proposed levy, it says here on the sheet from the mayor's office, reflects a reduction of half of the 2012 LGA. Well, no, it doesn't. You know, if the $50 million is what it is. You know, you can't change that. That's something the legislature has adopted in the special session agreement. They kept that. It was a little lower in the previous agreement. I don't understand why we keep hearing about cuts when the reality is, as somebody pointed out, there are a lot of cities in our state. You know, I used to be the city manager in Maplewood. We didn't get any LGA since 2003, not one dime. Golden Valley, Woodbury, these cities, major centers, Bloomington, no LGA. So whatever we're getting from the state, you know, that's good. Will it be here forever? I don't think so. And the gentleman who said we need a 5-year plan, I will. A 5-year plan, that's a good idea. And those of you that are starting or will be starting your new term of office, perhaps ought to embrace that idea. And those candidates who got elected, who will be sitting here, that might be a project for them to embark on, because, you know, to say we're the most livable city, of course we want to be the most livable city, but we've got to be economically sustainable. And if you folks aren't leading that, obviously with the mayor out of the room again, it's going to be difficult to achieve that result. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and actually, that was an eventful meeting, because we had some of the best testimony I've ever seen from citizens. And without delay, we're going to hear one of those citizens, Andrew Singer. He tells a tale to the city council about how his recent decision to become a homeowner may come back to haunt him. Let's hear what Mr. Singer has to say about his taxes.
Mayor, form of government, the mayor is never in this room. So I mean, I would suggest to you that
maybe we have to change that.
Really, we have enough trouble with our own people. The mayor's office has representatives here. He's certainly available for any of this communication. All of our stuff is online. He doesn't need to be here to, I mean, I don't need to defend him. But let's talk about what the reality is. He's never here, so it's not unusual.
My name's Andy Singer, and I used to live in Russ's district at a 5-unit apartment building, 1849 Portland Avenue, and now I live in Pat Harris's district. I made the mistake of buying a house 3.5 years ago, and which is all right. I'm not unlike some people who've talked to you. I can pay for stuff, or my wife and I are fairly well off, so it's not a problem. But I feel like I should make the point that if you can see this overhead thing, when I was renting an apartment for 1,000 square feet of apartment with garden access, the landlord paid heat, water, and trash. I was paying about $1,000 a month, actually less than that. And plus a utility bill that was really just $35 a month because it was just to run the refrigerator. It was the biggest appliance. And so the total bill for a year was about $12,420. Now my property taxes have gone up, were about $3,000 3.5 years ago when I bought this house, and now they're over $4,500. And Now I pay insurance, $1,100, water, trash, utilities, which are quite substantial, increased taxes, assessments, and then depreciation. I had a radiator pipe burst over my ceiling first 6 months we were in the house. That was $30,000. And I've got probably about $100,000 of stuff. It's an old 1923 house, as most of the housing stock here is. And porches are rotten. A lot of work has to be done. And so I'm looking at putting in $100,000 in the next 10 years or so to replace ancient furnace, concrete, both porches, part of the roof, and so depreciating that over 50 years, assuming that was the only thing I have to pay, which I think is really conservative, you get a depreciation of about $2,600 a year. And so I'm up to $10,518, and that's without the mortgage payment. So in 3 years, assuming the house was completely paid off, I would be paying more than to rent. And I just think, like, that's a bad situation. If you want people to take care of the housing stock in the city, it's not a good thing. I mean, you're starting. There's no incentive to own a piece of property. And I love bike lanes, actually. As somebody else was ragging on bike lanes, but my suggestions for ways to cut money are the Cayuga Bridges project. That's $1 billion project, and sure, the state and MnDOT are paying most of that, but the city has a component of it. The Aid Mill Northern Connection, which is on our comp plan, I realize we're not shelling out money for it anytime soon, but that would be $50 million, maybe more, project of which the city would have to pay some component of it. And I'm opposed to all these paving, road, parking, highway projects. We're still paying off, or the city and the state legislature had to pay off the Xcel Energy parking garages, and the hockey team is still trying to get its debt forgiven from the legislature. I mean, and all these, and I realize this isn't your guys' problem, but Viking Stadium boondoggle, another $1 billion project, and I can't even believe that they're talking about stuff like that. That's my only point. Is just that you're reaching the point where renting is better than owning, and I think that's a bad point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, indeed. I think Mr. Singer makes a well-made point, a point documented with real figures from people who are living a real life, he and his wife. Let's go to our next taxpayer, Asmer, and he is going to explore essentially the same theme, but from the perspective of a building owner in St. Paul, someone who actually owns some rental property. Let's hear what he has to say.
I purchased my house at 1970 Fairmount Avenue in McRollen in 2003. So unlike some of the people here, I actually don't mind paying taxes. I support progressive taxes, but this one is actually seems to be pretty regressive. So that's one of the things I don't like. So every year I get the assessment, and I take a look at it and don't really pay attention to it, but I did notice a trend, and taxes are really going up dramatically. So I just wanted to crunch some numbers, and the numbers are not really looking very encouraging. My property tax is scheduled to go up by 11.9% in 2012, and city proportion is 20.78%. So I was just curious, how much did it go up since I moved into this house? So 9 years ago, it went up by 140%. Not a big deal, just 140%, but what I'm really concerned about is the trend. When is this going to stop, or do we have any plan on for potentially a different approach or anything like that? Because 9 years from now, again, if this continues, I'll be paying more in taxes than in mortgage. I guess the idea of the home ownership, you know, eventually you pay off your mortgage and you kind of have a low cost of living, you know. But now, you know, taxes are just looking pretty bad. So I guess I'll just cut it to that. Yeah, I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There's the voice of the people, a man who's done the math. He's concerned about his economic future. He had a plan to make an investment and actually pay off the property and not have large expenses in the future when his income is less. But the city of St. Paul obviously has a different plan. Now, the next taxpayer, Alex, he owns a apartment building on the east side on Prosperity Avenue in St. Paul. Let's hear what he has to say about his investment.
I owned this building for 12 years, and just for last 4 years, the increase was like $3,000 in taxes and $1,500 lately for 2012. That means it's about effectively 46% increase in the last 4 years. We housing young people, people who doesn't have enough income, virtually working poor. Let's say that. We don't have poor people in America, but obviously we do. I'm doing all my means to keep that rent down, and in the same time keep the building in a good shape, in a good living condition. Having that every 2-3 years, huge increase in the taxes. I just, first of all, the city effectively pushed me out of this business. If I will raise my taxes for that working poor, nobody else will rent my business, my apartments, because they kind of older building. It's just for that's the niche I have, okay, and I was comfortable, and people were comfortable to rent from me. Not anymore. I have to support myself. I retired. I don't have much income. I have to get from somewhere. So having that library, having like previous speaker said, bike roads, they doing that good service to the city, but in my view they do disservice because they kill businesses. That's all I have to say. And please answer me the question, how come in my value of my building increased 2.7% for this year, and tax increased 16.4%. Please give me the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, of course, the landlord didn't get an answer from the city council. They hardly ever answer those questions. The city, you should know, of St. Paul in 2012 will be seeking a 6.5% levy increase. That's an increase of $6.5 million more than they levied last year. We have another clip that we want to play from a former city council member, Tom Diamond. He lives in the Dayton's Bluff area, and he's very concerned about how his neighborhood is trending down and how the public services will be less. And also, he recollects a conversation where there was a comparison made between the costs of living in St. Paul versus the cost of living in Woodbury and the taxes attendant to both communities. Let's watch that clip. This is with former Councilmember Tom Diamond.
How difficult it's become to raise money to plow the alleys because so many of the homes are foreclosed, turned to rental, or vacant now. For those of us who have spent decades working to revitalize neighborhoods, this is very disheartening. 200,000, when someone is considering whether to buy or stay in St. Paul, they often compare costs. Taxes and fees for a $200,000 homestead in St. Paul are approximately $700 more annually than in Woodbury. The cost difference does not end there. Woodbury charges $1,400 for an ambulance ride to a hospital. St. Paul charges $1,700. St. Paul charges homeowners $440 to address the city council on neighborhood concerns such as variances. Woodbury does not. St. Paul charges twice as much for drinking water as Woodbury does. Everyone should read the August Port Board minutes. Council President Lantry and Mayor Coleman called on the Port Authority to reduce the tax levy $600,000. The Port Authority Administrative Committee voted down that recommendation to reduce the levy. The administration offered to give the port $175,000 and $25,000 annually from the city. The port chair stated that.
Now, you know, there's an interesting fact. In St. Paul, we have so many entities that are coming at you for taxes. The library board, the housing rehab group, the Port Authority has given notice that they're going to want to levy a tax next year. And of course, we have the school board, we have the county, we have the railroad authority, gets $20 million that goes to the county. There's just no end in St. Paul to the people that are looking for money out of your pocket. And the other item this year is that the charge for recycling in St. Paul is going to go from, I believe it's $32, $34 to $54 in 1 year. That kind of increase is obscene. The next taxpayer we're going to hear from has lived in St. Paul for 30 years. Her name is Mary Gross, and she's got an interesting story to tell. And you know what? Why don't we let her tell it, because my voice isn't doing too well. Go ahead. We have okay, we're just catching up with that clip, and we'll put that on in a second here.
There's too many things up there.
Okay, we gotta keep talking. They tell me we're not quite to Mary's comment, but Mary and some other taxpayers had some ideas. Not Mary, but another taxpayer suggested that if people are not paying taxes, then you know what? They don't get their house taken care of when the fire comes. This is a little more over the top than we're used to hearing at City Hall, but it represents a level of frustration by people who live in the community. There was another suggestion that the only people left in St. Paul will be people that are rich or poor or work for unions. Actually, the people who work for the unions, many of them have already left and live in Wisconsin, despite Governor Walker and all the things happening to union employees. So let's see if Miss Mary Gross is ready for prime time here on our show. Here she is.
Taxes have done nothing but go up in the last 5 years, and this year, I think last year they went up 10%, the year before they went up 12%, and now they're going up another 12%. I'm going to be retiring in another year or so, and I don't know if I can afford to stay in the city anymore. And I love the city, but I go out to the suburbs to visit my daughter. Their streets are plowed so frequently, it's unbelievable. And you know, they're a beautiful area to live in. You feel safe when you take them. I take my grandkids to the parks there, and I don't feel that way in St. Paul anymore. And we have to do something different. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect somehow that we're going to save enough money to offset the cuts that are coming from the state. And the handwriting has been on the wall for a long time, since Pawlenty took office as governor, that things were going to change in terms of aid to the cities, and of course with the change in the legislature. But I've been coming to these truth in taxation meetings ever since they started them, and nothing appears to have changed in terms of looking at new ways to conduct city business. And I don't know what it's going to take to get the politicians to think differently about how we run the city. Also, I know I'm in Mr. Stark's district, and I'm thinking of selling my home, and now we have this moratorium on who you can sell your home to, that you can't sell it to anyone who would like to rent it out. Young people, I would love to see a family move into our house, but with the taxes, with the costs, young families can't afford to move into our area anymore, and the people who can are the people who buy the homes to rent them out, and who can pass the property tax increases along to their renters up to a point. And then they stop doing the maintenance work on these properties because they can't afford to keep doing that if they can't afford to raise rents. And these are older homes. They take a lot of work to maintain. And we can't keep doing that and paying these high taxes. So I just hope that you've got to look at different ways to run the city, and I just don't think you're doing that, and I don't know what it's going to take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Gross was speaking for many, many, many taxpayers. Probably not just taxpayers in St. Paul. Taxpayers are looking to their city officials to do things differently, to spend their money wisely, to forego certain discretionary costs, not to incur additional debt, to build a residential base, but more importantly, to support the economics that drive lower taxes at the end of the day, which are two things: cutting spending and building a business tax base in your city. Without businesses, without successful businesses, there will be only higher taxes for the homes that are left. You could see from the testimony at all of the hearings that I attended that people are frustrated. They're frustrated because government appears to be operating in a world different than the world that people live in a world that is made up of spending more and more every year, taxing more and more every year, and ignoring the reality of the marketplace, ignoring the foreclosures, the bankruptcies, and the like, ignoring the fact that we have 20,000 round numbers unemployed in Ramsey County. Folks, we understand that reality. Next time somebody comes to your door and asks for a vote, ask them if they understand that reality. And what are they prepared to do that's different? We know that answer is important, because if we can't afford our communities, our taxes, to live in our homes, then what future do we have? Folks, Merry Christmas. We'll see you the next time, and we'll talk some more about spending in local government. And Santa Claus is taking us out on his sleigh. That's his sleigh bells. And I think he's going to take some of those public officials to the North Pole, and who would miss them anyway? They're just voting for higher taxes. There we go. I think he's waving goodbye.